Hi there, this is Chiraya Dharma. Welcome to the great law Aback all things. Some people say Aback, what does that mean? Like behind, the great law that permeates everything is behind it and underneath it, above, below, and all around about it. And the great law is ineffable and immutable. It cannot be changed, and it's a bit of a mystery, but not so mysterious that we can't comprehend it. And that's what we're going to be doing here today. Humanity has long been baffled by how life works, what life is, what life means, what we're doing here. And there's many rabbit holes to go down around that topic. But the one topic that we're going to be talking about today is the anchor and tether to reality, which has been placed underneath us or behind us, which is called the great law Aback all things. And this law says that which goes out comes back. So if you imagine God, the almighty beingness, the one, deciding it was going to have an experience as many, turning itself magically into all of us, and then having this experience and this adventure of free will choice in a platform that we call the world. And in that desire to express as many and to find out what that would be all about in this great experiment, the Almighty placed a rule, an anchor and a tether upon itself called the great law that states that which goes out comes back. So we're all bound by this law. That's why it's called immutable. And what we speak into existence, we also feel it and imagine it, is going to come back to us as our experience of reality. The vibrations that we're in those thoughts, feelings, and imaginations are going to outpicture as different aspects of our reality. So if you imagine that law working over eons of time, where we've created and manifested so many things, everything you see around you, the houses, some even say the plants, that beings designed the plants, all of the different hybridized animals, all of the homes, all of the things, every single thing you can imagine, matches, cups, phones, glasses, everything that is in our existence first came from someone dreaming it up and thinking about it and thinking of it into existence. And so they imagined and thought about what they wanted, and then the download started coming about how to make it, and then they made it out of the material existence. And that making out of the material existence then shows something up in form, and now it has a reality to it. And so now we look out at that thing that we made and we believe it has a reality. We believe it's reality. And then that happens around our systems, that happens around our life experiences, that happens around our relationships and how life is. We start getting belief systems about how life is. And now our attention goes to the outer world, looking at what we already created, making that more real to us by our focus on it as real. And as over eons of time, as we slowly fell asleep to the law, we started putting more power on what was already created in our life experience than we did on what we were wanting to manifest anew. We're going forwards, where we already have been in outer woman and outer man land, to where we look out at reality and think we're beholden to it, and that we have to subject ourselves to what is. Whereas the truth is, we're creators who imagine, feel, think, and know. And from that imagining, feeling, thinking, and knowing of what we want to create, then that experience is drawn to us. And many of us have had glimpses of this, large or small. And anybody listening to this probably has had a number of glimpses of this and is trying to understand and comprehend it more. And the thing is, with it being immutable, that means it doesn't change. It's not different in one situation or another. It's always the same. And then people ask, well, then why is my life the way it is? Because certainly I don't want it that way. Or, this part of my life, maybe that everything is perfect except for one area, maybe finances or relationships or health, there's a little snag. So why are things not working in that one area? Well, the balance of thought, feeling, and emotion, vibration, if you will, in that area has built up over time through our ancestral lineages, in past lives, in our collective consciousness of this time and space, as well as in our early childhood, to create impressions in the mind, in the subconscious, if you will, that lean us toward that problem occurring or reoccurring and repercussing. And if you notice in your life, there's patterns, sometimes very even strange patterns that are so uncanny, because literally the same kind of person keeps showing up, or the same kind of problem keeps showing up. And that is because this material is literally in the subconscious mind. And being in the subconscious mind, it's going to outpicture as your reality until it doesn't. And until it doesn't means until you begin thinking in a new way, until you begin imagining and feeling in a new way with enough chi, power, prana, momentum, energy, duration, intensity to counteract the buildup of the material and the energy in the subconscious mind toward opposite things, or things that you don't want. And so that's where some of the tool sets come in, because really all it takes is for you to focus your attention in the direction of your choosing, of your desires, with enough intensity and duration and lightheartedness too, I might add, to cause that imprint to occur. But if you're too attached to the outcome, if you've judged yourself that you can't have it, resisting that desire because of other beliefs, if there's people or places or things that you haven't forgiven, and you're making yourself a victim and making them the perpetrator, even if they did do what they did, nobody's saying they didn't do what they did. They did. We've had a situation here, right? All this buildup has caused all kinds of situations to occur which haven't been pleasant. If we're not unconditionally loving ourselves and others, all of these things cause what has been come to be called a blockage towards the manifestation of the new thing. And some people don't like to use the word blockage because it's a little too intense. I'm just pointing to that word because really it's easy. It's not as hard as it seems for us to counteract these things. But it does take knowledge, and it takes awareness, and it takes diligence. And sometimes it takes what we call energy clearing, which is the other trifecta. The trifecta is energy clearing, manifesting, and spiritual growth. Because when we clear the energy out of the subconscious mind, which is also a creative act, believe it or not, then we can actually have the capacity to focus our thoughts and to concentrate in the right direction now, so that is no longer going to be, the old pattern isn't going to be our main thought anymore. Does that make sense? So these three things, manifesting, energy clearing, and spiritual growth, all work together. They all go together. They fit together like a glove, actually. And that glove helps us to be and become who we're meant to be. We already are who we're meant to be, but we have largely forgotten. And so anywhere, just think about now, any area in your life that feels a little troublesome, and just pick one for now. Maybe there's more than one. Just pick one, and I want to invite you to imagine what you are thinking about. What is the baseline of your thinking around that topic? Because your baseline of thinking around that topic will tell you why that situation is staying there. So you're going to notice, probably, I'm going to say, that maybe you've gotten affirmation in sideways here and there, but the bulk of your thought around this topic may be less than the absolute knowing that you're going to have what you want. The absolute knowing that we can have what we want comes from comprehending the nature of the law, the great law back all things. So when we truly comprehend the nature of the law, then we know that we know that we know that when we think and feel and act in a certain direction, it is going to happen. It is not, and in fact, it is already done, as many like to say in the manifesting world, including great teachers like Neville Goddard. We assume the wish is fulfilled. And when we have the faith of a grain of mustard, we're going to move mountains. So even if it seems impossible to overcome this gnarly situation, whatever it is, when we know that we know that we know that our thought and our feeling in congruence with our desire is that seed, that pattern that's going to grow into what it's intended to grow into, now we can have that faith that moves mountains. So the faith comes from knowledge, actually. It comes from knowledge of the law. And so the knowledge of the law says, I know that I know that I know. When I put my inner work in to this topic and I change my mind about the situation and I choose to see people differently than how they currently are showing up, including myself, when I choose to see my bank account differently than how it's showing up, when I choose to see my relationships differently than how they're showing up, when I choose to see my career differently than how it's showing up, and I do it with enough intensity and duration, and or a combination of intensity and duration, I am going to, it is absolutely done. It's the law. So if we believe that that's not true, then that's a counterbalancing energetic to our work that we're trying to do. However, even if you believe you're not going to do it and say you're not going to do it, if you have enough intensity and duration in the direction of your choosing, it will happen. So an example of this is Neville Goddard's ladder exercise. So he let everyone into his VIP back room for manifestors once they had achieved the ladder exercise. And the ladder exercise went like this. He said, I want you to put little pieces of paper all over your house, wherever you're going to see, in your car, on your dashboard, on your refrigerator, in your nightstand when you wake up, wherever, or when you go to bed. I will not climb a ladder. So you're absolutely committing. You're committing yourself to absolutely not get on a ladder. That's a big no. I'm not doing that. But then when you go to bed at night, you imagine, literally, you get into this state akin to sleep. You get into that relaxed brainwave state, and you imagine yourself putting one foot and another on the ladder, and you imagine climbing up the ladder. But then during the day, you're saying to yourself, I am not climbing any ladder. No way, Neville. Sorry, that's not happening. So of course, what happens is the imprint of the imaginal act overrides the conscious belief that you're not going to do it. And people find themselves all of a sudden, they're like, oh my God, I'm on a freaking ladder. How did that happen? So there's many, many funny stories about that. And you could try it yourself if you want. But basically the idea is, at a certain point, if we impregnate the subconscious mind deeply enough through imagining being on the ladder through our own eyes, holding the rails, feeling the rungs under our feet, that is going to supersede our conscious beliefs. And that's what's happening too, even in the opposite. We may believe we want a ton of money in the bank, but our, and that's our conscious desire, but our subconscious says, oh no, money's this, that, and the other thing, or oh, I don't deserve that, or whatever it is. So that's where the energy clearing part of it comes in, where we go in and we root out the old ingrained belief system, also through a creative act, like I was saying before. So the creative act is you commanding and asking, and asking you shall receive. High self, creator, self of me, inner being, clear now the obstacles in the way. And ultimately, that's really all it takes. All it takes is us deciding we want to clear something. There are many techniques and tools around this, and you can pick the one that you like the most. But when we state, high self, please clear this now, it's our own conscious acknowledgement of what wants to be cleared, and then our willingness to have it be cleared. And then we wait and see if we get a signal, if we get a feeling, an impulse, if something happens in our body. Sometimes it could even be things like burps or a shiver or a funny feeling in the stomach or getting cold all of a sudden. All these things could mean the energy is moving. And when the energy moves, now you know that that pattern is clearing. And so when we do these clearing sessions together, I work with people one-on-one doing that, and sometimes in groups as well. Then, and you feel that energy moving, now we go back, and typically what happens is people have a mindset shift about that issue. The issue looks different and feels different. And not only that, but then when you also go back after that and re-impregnate the mind with what you want instead, now you actually have the energetic, spiritual, inner capacity to think and feel and know this new reality that you desire. So you have the capacity to be in the assumption of the wish fulfilled. You have the capacity to impregnate the subconscious mind successfully with the new desired pattern. And then what will happen is you will be compelled to act. You no longer have to try to hammer things out in 3D, because you've become inner man instead of outer man, or inner woman instead of outer woman. You're now knowing that the impulse for creation begins with you, within you, as an extension of the prime creator, the source energy here in this world, appearing to be in this world, I might add. And so as we go along, testing this out, because we're asked to prove it and to test it. And as we test it out, we begin to comprehend that this is the truth from within ourselves, not because somebody told us. And as that happens, then our entire perception of who we are changes. Our perception of what reality is changes. Our perception of what is possible changes. And it's not only for us in our personal lives. We can leverage the power of this knowledge to positively impact our families, our communities, our work, our cities, our towns, our villages, our world, our nations. And so as we hold the vision of wanting to be in a world, a city, a town, a family, a relationship, a community based on unconditional love, knowledge of the law, the golden rule, goodwill towards everyone, goodwill towards the planet, beautiful water, healed soil, clean air, plenty and abundance, prosperity for all, health for all. There is no limit to what we can manifest and create. We just have to be willing to surrender our old beliefs about what is. That may feel or be in practice easier said than done, because some of those were built through time with compounded momentum in the nature of the law. So it's the same immutable law that has caused those old belief systems to take hold and take root in our subconscious mind. So you can see it'll take a little doing sometimes to uproot some of the oldest beliefs in the human consciousness that has manifested as different various types of strife and unrest in our lives and in the world. However, as each one of us remembers how to do this, and there's billions of us here, as more and more millions remember how to do this, then what are they doing? Well, they're creating their own world of peace and well-being and prosperity. And so all of these little bubbles of peace, well-being, and prosperity are now dominating the field of consciousness of the planet. So it becomes easier and easier for the others to catch a whiff of that and catch on and to start to believe in that direction as well. And so pretty soon then the compounded momentum in the nature of the law will be taking root and taking hold in that more positive direction. But now you can see how and why it starts with each and every one of us. It starts with us. As we do it, we make it easier for the others to do it. And so as we go about tending our own garden, as we go about tending our own mind, tending our own lives, tending our own thoughts, tending our own feelings, as we pay attention to what we're thinking and shift it in a new direction, if it's not a match to what we desire, then we are doing our part in shifting the entire planet, the experience of well-being on the planet and in our lives, our communities, and our relationships. So it takes a little bit of tenacity of will, because these other energies have been ingrained quite a bit through time. They've been ingrained in our thinking, in our culture, in our cultural talk. And so that's why sometimes we need to take a step back from what's being generated in our media, or as people talk about world events or their problems, or as we have been used to talking about our own problems. Sometimes we do need to talk about them enough to turn it around. But I suppose the recommendation would be not to talk about the problems unless you're about the business of solving them by calling upon the creator within to clear them, and then turn it around into what you want instead. And, you know, this is why the scriptures and all these things talk about not gossiping. Like, don't talk negatively about others, because that's not going to help those people any. You're re-imprinting subconsciously and psychically that old energy for those other people. But then you're also putting your attention on those things unwanted. And so what is your attention? Your attention is your power. It's your engine. It's your driver towards your own experience of reality. So it's enlightened self-interest also, as well as benevolence, to avoid talking negatively about others, to keep our own mind, to keep our own thought forms, our own imagining into a higher state of being, higher consciousness. So I hope all that makes sense. Now I want to answer something that Miriam had asked earlier. And she said, if we have several timelines, how do we make sure we're in the best one? And so some people do think that we have multiple timelines, or what we might call parallel lives going on. And that, again, that's one of those rabbit holes that can be really fun to get into if you want. And the answer is simple and along the same lines. As long as we keep catching ourselves in the act of imagining and visualizing negative outcomes, and quickly turn it around and take the time to pause and make the effort to imagine instead the desired outcome. That's how we stay on the higher timelines. It's literally the same function of the law that we leverage, whether we're talking about our regular everyday life or we're talking about jumping timelines. It's the same function, the same knowledge. And again, if there's a pattern, like let's say if you're getting interdimensional on it, let's say there's us in multiple dimensions all at once. It's another fun rabbit hole to go down. Now you can imagine that if some parts of us in different dimensions are in congruence with the law and some aren't, we want to do some inner work to make sure all parts of ourselves are in congruence with the law. We can do some energy clearing for those parts of us that need some catching up. And so these things are all creative, and we're creative, and our imagination is the powerhouse behind it. And when we imagine, we want to imagine these things as already here. We want to be in our body, in our imagination. We want to be looking through our own eyes. We want to be feeling all of our senses. We want to be seeing, hearing, sensing, knowing what we want to see all around us. We can notice what we're wearing. We can notice the sounds or smells in the room. We can notice what we're seeing in the background, as well as the person we're talking to, if we're talking to someone in the scene. And then we do that in like create a 10-second clip is one of the easiest things to do. Create a 10-second clip that tells you that this outcome you desire is absolutely done. A very simple example of that is like, if you want to be married, don't imagine giving the engagement ring. Imagine the ring on the finger, lying in bed happily after a year, talking to your spouse about what a wonderful marriage you have. You go to the end, go to the wish fulfilled and imagine it there. And if you can imagine it with enough intensity and sensation, it's like being on the holodeck. Now you've just conjured up this absolute experience of this desire fulfilled. And so some might ask, well, what if that desire I have isn't really for my highest good? And that is a totally valid question. And so we can do what we call source sanctioned visioning, and we can tune in and ask our inner being, is this desire for my highest good? And it's a wonderful practice to do that, because some of our desires may have come from some of the distortion that we've experienced in the past, or feelings of lack, or feelings of things we missed out on. But if we actually tune in on our highest good, there may be a whole other set of things that are truly going to give us the satisfaction and lasting happiness and peace that we really want. So that's also why we practice gratitude, and that's why we practice tuning in with our source and our higher consciousness on a regular basis, on a daily basis, so that when we go to do our manifesting work, now we feel like we're in congruence with that highest destiny path. And that also relates to what Miriam was saying there. So I hope all that is helpful. And that is indeed what I do with people in private sessions, both the energy clearing and the manifesting work, and sometimes also in shows like this. So I'm always excited to help everyone. And I'm always amazed at the results and at what happens in people's lives. It's my great honor and pleasure to be a part of this transformation that we're in, because truly we're in a collective transformation right now, from outer man to inner man. Some of us are a little ahead of the curve, others are going to catch up later. But the more and more that we each take it seriously and make the effort to do that work every day, it may feel a little difficult sometimes to, when the world is completely the opposite, or some part of your life is completely the opposite of how you want it to be. I get that it could feel a little dicey there for a sec. So, it's okay. Just keep at it. Just try harder. Like literally make the effort. This is the greatest effort you ever have to make, is that inner work of being in the state of the wish fulfilled. Because once you've done that, now you're going to be compelled to act naturally to do whatever needs doing. And the universe knows what needs doing. Source or God knows what needs doing. Us in our little mind, we're not even supposed to try to know what needs doing. It may download to us, oh, do this, do that, do that. The strategy will come in. All these things, all this knowledge and information will come in once we actually are operating in the right direction. So actually, let's just do a little meditation now while we're here together in this peaceful state. And so I invite you to take a nice deep breath. And if you're not driving or something like that, you can close your eyes. If you are, you can always listen to the replay later to do this exercise. So taking a nice deep breath, closing your eyes, I invite you to scan your body, mind, spirit complex, and just notice if there's any place of discomfort in there at all right now. And just ask for that love of creation to come in and nurture and nourish any place that you might feel lack or limitation in your life at this time. Just imagine that that energy is coming in and filling you up to overflowing with beautiful golden light, so that your whole aura is filled like a beautiful egg, a beautiful golden egg. And that golden egg is radiating with such love. And now I want you to imagine something that you'd like to have happen in your life that would be a blessing. Maybe it's a transformation of a relationship. Maybe it's more money in your bank account. Maybe it's a career change or a move or some guidance that you need. Pick one thing at a time. And I just want you to imagine a scene where you know that you know that you know that this situation is already done. You go ahead right now and give yourself the enjoyment of the feeling of this wish fulfilled. Just give yourself the enjoyment of the feeling of this wish fulfilled. What would it feel like were that fulfilled in you right now in your life? Imagine where you are when you're feeling this fulfillment. Think about what you're wearing and who you're with. Are there any words exchanged helping you confirm that this wish is fulfilled? So think about this and do your best in this moment to feel it as already done. And take a minute and notice your surroundings. What do you see around you? And what do you hear? Are there any smells in the air? How does it feel to be in your body? Are you looking out of your own eyes? And as you do this and practice this, you might get some insights about the perfect scene to imagine of your wish fulfilled. And so as you get that perfect scene, now you can take it as long as it feels necessary and imagine it when you wake up in the morning, before you go to sleep, whenever you have a moment throughout the day where you're meditating. And once you've done it enough, you might feel an explosion of bliss. You might feel a rush or a thrill in your chest, in your body, mind, spirit complex, telling you that that wish is now impregnated as a reality in your subconscious mind. It's recommended to run that little scene over and over and over, like a little 10-second scene. Just repeat it over and over and over, 10, 20, 30, 100 times in each of your sessions, and feel the thrill. Just ramp up the energy of the feeling of the thrill of this wish fulfilled. And we do have free will, of course, and it is recommended highly and strongly to only do this in a way that will bring benefit and be benevolent to all beings. We use this power of our imagination for good, for positivity, for creating greater well-being for all, and for satisfying those worthy desires that we have. We can do, be, and have what we want. And when we ask and pray to see a vision of how we can do that in harmony with the all that is, then we're doing our part in reuniting with our cosmic family, with our spiritual family, to usher in this new golden age that many talk about. And so as you're enjoying that meditation, just know that all is well, and that you can go back to this recording anytime. You can do this on your own, and practice makes perfect. So coming back to the room now, gently wiggling toes and fingers, knowing that you can go and write down all that you received in this meditation and in this experience today. I recommend taking some notes about your imaginal act and about what it is you wish to create. Thank you very much. Much love and many blessings.